Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Thursday evening, which means we are 2 days away from the weekend, and more importantly, we are 2 days away from match day again. So it is match preview show time, and it is the return of a certain someone this weekend. But before we get on to Steve Evans and his very lovable sidekick, Paul Rayner, I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Matt, who is a Stevenage fan, of course. I'm sure you'd work that out. And he does help co-run the Stevenage FC podcast. So I will put their Twitter handle in the description at the bottom of this video. Go and check them out. I will be making an appearance on their podcast ahead of the game. But yeah, at TSFC podcast, pretty straightforward, not hard to remember. Matt, appreciate you coming on. Hope you're well.
Yeah, look, Matt, thanks for having me on, mate. I always love coming on and doing these and representing us at Stevenage. So, yeah, no, look, thanks for having me on.
No, real pleasure. Like I say, it's something that we started doing after COVID. I think it's just a better concept. You get, proper information about the team that you're due to play. It used to just be me and another Gills fan, and obviously you're then talking about the same things essentially. So let's get straight into this. Current form, and it is getting better, Gills. It is getting better. We are scoring goals and we're picking up points, and we're, I think, 5 unbeaten in all competitions. But obviously, League Two is where we're at the weekend, so that's what we'll be concentrating on. Last 6 for the Gills is 7 points from 18 available as a single win. There is only 1 defeat as well with 4 draws. So we're not that far away, I don't think. Obviously, the negative amongst the fan base will say if we start conceding more, then we will get beat even more heavily than we have done on occasions this season. In terms of Steve Evans, Stevenage, 15 points from the last 18. It will be our hardest game of the season. I think that's fairly obvious to everybody connected with both clubs. It's 1 single defeat at Bradford, but 5 wins apart from that. So really, really good run of form for Steve Evans, Stevenage. Break it down a little bit further. At home, Gills are pretty solid. It's 2 wins, 2 draws and 2 defeats. So 8 points from 18. Stevenage, not quite as good on the road as they are overall, and certainly as they are on home, because I think it's 12 wins from 12 in all competitions. So perfection on their own patch, but this is not being played on their patch. This is being played in Kent. But it's still not a bad return. It's 10 points from 18 available. There's 3 wins, a draw, and a pair of defeats in the last 6 away fixtures. You've just been really solid, Matt, all over the park all season long from what I've seen. I mean, I've not watched loads and loads of Stevenage, but obviously with the link, I try to keep an eye on the results, and we'll get on to Steve more in particular in a little while. And I'm sure we'll talk about budgets and that type of thing, and how much he spends and how much he likes to spend. You've just been really, really good. Like I said, perfect at home in all competitions, phenomenal record, and you've beaten some good sides. But the other side, because you are away, and I'm trying to find positives from a Gills perspective, you conceded 8 in 6 on the road. I know it's slightly lopsided because you did concede 3 in 1 game at Valley Parade when you got thrashed by Bradford. But yeah, you must be really pleased with the start of the season.
Yeah, look, we're absolutely over the moon. It's almost like we're in a bit of dreamland at the minute because we've seen the club in the bottom 4 for 4 to 5 years now. So to be top of the league is just something that we've never done in the Football League before. So yeah, look, I think going into this season we had to become a top half team because again, if we didn't, we'd probably get relegated. If you look at those stats and the teams that go down, they normally flirt with those positions for a few years and then drop. So for us, it was just about becoming a top half team. And when we signed the players we did, we thought, well, we could have a good side here. We had an amazing pre-season where we literally won every single game in the pre-season. But, you do well in pre-season sometimes, but you just don't know if that can be transferred to the league. And we've most certainly done that. It's been terrific. As you said, we've picked up 21 points out of 21 at home this season. Won every single home game competitively, and again the away form 10 points out of 18. That's been good as well. We've had a couple of losses on the road, but really those losses that we've had on the road, we should have got results. In Bradford, we missed a whole host of chances, and as you do against Bradford, when you're letting an early goal, it's very difficult to come back against the crowd. And Salford, we had a whole host of chances to score that there, and we just couldn't hit the back of the net. So I think the one thing for us, what we've done is when we've lost those 2 games, we've responded really well. So our last loss against Bradford, we've then gone on to respond with 4 competitive wins on the bounce. Yeah. So, yeah, look, we're over the moon. We've got 31 points. We're top. And, yeah, we just want to keep it going and see where we kind of end up, really.
Yeah, of course, because Steve obviously came in back end of last season and was tasked with keeping you up, and essentially did it really, really comfortably in the end. It was, I think, in terms of your form after he arrived, there wasn't too many better in the division. So that seems to have carried on. We all know that if he's backed, he's very, very good at this level. He's proven that with Crawley, with Rotherham, with Mansfield, with Peterborough, and even to a degree with Gills. I mean, we were a team that was finishing probably bottom third of League One for years and years and years prior to Steve Evans coming in through the door. And I didn't want him. I said I didn't want him at the time. I actually went on national radio. I got invited onto TalkSport and said that I thought there was, and not just because of what happened at Boston all them years ago, because I'm very much of the persuasion that if you make a mistake and you pay for it, you get given a second chance. You know, you do your crime, you do your time, and he did that, and he got punished. But I just thought there were better managers at the time. I think the likes of Darryl Clark and Paul Hurst were available. But Steve was brilliant for us. I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise, regardless of whether I like him or hate him as an individual, or what I think of his antics. He made us a better football team, and he made us more competitive in League One, and that's shown in the fact that we finished 10th 2 seasons in a row. I think we finished above Ipswich one of them seasons at least, and we were flirting with the playoffs. Obviously, it went horrifically wrong in the third season. And if we fast forward sort of from December last year to now, that's where we're at. We're in League Two because we didn't get enough points. And Steve takes the blame for that. Paul Rayner takes the blame for that. The players take the blame for that. And the owner takes the blame for that. It has to be apportioned to everyone. It wasn't just on any one person. But he seems to have been backed fairly well by your chairman. I kept looking at your signings rolling in through the summer. I kept thinking, yeah, he's a good player. Core, he's a good player. Core, we had him on loan. He was a good player. Oh, there's another one. I think it's around a dozen or more that came in, and obviously there's that risk. And we know Steve Evans likes high churn of players. He likes to get his own people in. He tends to go to people that he knows in the past. Aaron Chapman was a prime example again. Michael Bostwick, people that he's trusted previously. Who, if anyone, has stood out of that vast array of new additions? One that's jumped off the page at me is probably Jordan Roberts, but that's again probably because I had him. We watched him on loan for Gills, and he was a decent player a couple of seasons ago. But for me, it looks like he's had a brilliant start to the season.
Yeah, I don't want to sound arrogant, but there's been quite a few.
Well, yeah, that's I'd put
Yeah.
best so far question mark, but I didn't actually list any because I thought you was going to say everyone's playing a part.
Yeah, there are some. There's a few real standouts. So Jordan Roberts is probably within that group. He's you know, he came in, and obviously we knew that he had time with yourselves at Crawley. I think he was in Scotland when we got him, and you could see in the opening game that he played in. Well, I mean, you could see it in the pre-season, but in terms of competitive football, when he came on against Tranmere, he scored the winner, and you could see, oh wow, he's a good player, and he's been brilliant. He scored 3 goals in the last week. He's our joint top goal scorer at the minute. So Jordan Roberts is definitely in there. All 3 defenders, Piergiani, Dan Sweeney, and Terence Van Kooten. Terence is our longest serving player at the minute. He's been at the club for 6 years, but obviously Piergiani, well known in League Two, and Dan Sweeney just won the league with Forest Green. So those 3 have been absolutely phenomenal. And not only are they winning us points defensively, they're winning us points scoring as well. We worked out that our back line had won us like 15 points just from scoring. So we're a massive threat from set pieces, and those 3 play a big part. So those 3 as well. But also there's been a real standout player in Alex Gilby, who Gilby joined us on loan from Charlton back in August. League One player, really. And he's proved that. He's playing in these games, and we're like, how on earth have we got him here? I mean, he's not League Two. He's getting balls and hitting 90-yard balls opposite the pitch. You're thinking,
there's been a few, isn't there, this season in terms of midfielders that have dropped into this division. I mean, he's one. George Moncur went to Leyton Orient. I think Richie Smallwood went to Bradford, and you're looking at players that have played, you know, sort of 20 plus games in the Championship last season. It's or 40 games in League One, like you say with Gilby's case. Yeah, players that essentially are probably too good for the division, like you said. It's quite frightening for a smaller club like ourselves that we're having to come up against these players, but I think it's probably good, and it shows that the quality that we do have, even in the 4th division, essentially, because it's all new to me, having been in League One for a decade. There's been a lot more learning from me personally throughout the summer to try and gauge who was going to be the stronger teams, who would be the best players, and yeah, some of the standard is really, really good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with League Two, more so the past 5 years, the level's been getting better every year.
Mm.
And it's something we've seen, and fortunately, we've been able to become one of those teams that
Yeah,
well, looks like one of the top sides. But yeah, so yeah, look, we've had a few standouts. Again, there's a couple of boys in the final third. Danny Rose and Jamie Reid have been brilliant this season. Again, all got 4 goals in all competitions. So there's a few standouts. But if I had to if you had to push me for an answer, I'd say Jordan Roberts, Gilby, Sweeney, Piergiani, and Terence Van Cooten have been the standouts for us.
it's going to be easy Saturday then, Gills fans. Um, we're going to have to talk about one man. We can't do a preview show that's Gills Stevenage without talking about Steve Evans. And I just want to get sort of your thoughts on him. I've already said that when it was being mooted that he was coming to Gillingham, I wasn't a fan of it, but he won me round in terms of what he did for the football club. Whether he left us in a great state right at the end is for another day and another discussion, but that's all conjecture. When you started hearing, because obviously there was a link in December that he was being touted to go to Stevenage, and our chairman at the time, Paul Scally, said no, he's not going anywhere. We're looking forward to him seeing out the rest of his contract at the very least. And then a month later, he's been sacked, and then he turns up at Stevenage, I think in the February. What was your first thoughts when it was becoming apparent that Steve Evans might just be the man to take over? Because I know there's this impression that unless he's in charge of your club, you're not meant to like him.
No, honestly, Matt, I've got to be honest, we were over the moon. I know it sounds obviously because Steve, he's had that reputation in the past, but we were absolutely over the moon. He is, and I'm looking back at the past of managers we've had at Stevenage. He's the first proper football league level manager we've ever had, really. And it's something that we've missed for 5 to 6 years. We've always recruited guys who were coaches at the club or ex-players or, people that coached in the non-league. But we've never had a football league manager. So when Steve arrived, we were absolutely over the moon, because I think when he arrived, I think we all would agree that we thought we were doomed really to get relegated. But when Steve turned up, we thought, well, hang on a second here. We've got one of the, most kind of polarizing figures in League Two and League One here. He might do the job, and well, did he? He kept us up by over 10 points in the end. So look, we were over the moon. I think he's great for our club. Again, you've hit the nail on the head. When he's your manager, you love him, but when he's not, you hate him. And I think that fits our club perfectly. And he's just done an amazing job for what he's done for our club. Again, we've been a bottom 4 club for five, nearly 6 years, and he's come in and absolutely transformed it. He's got people buzzing around the football club. We just had our highest attendance against Swindon on Saturday in about 5 years. Had nearly 5,000 at the game. There's a real buzz at the football club. And personally, I love the guy. He sent me a personal message on me doing the London Marathon 2 weeks ago. So I love Big Steve. We've all got
fair play. And there's just a story here as well, and it might sort of just, I'm not saying it'll change people's minds, but I was out walking on my lunch break Monday, the 5th of January of this year. Phone rang during the day I was working. Didn't answer it because I was busy. Mobile number, didn't recognise it. No voicemail. Thought, well, it's probably PPI or some of that nonsense. Looked at my phone again just before lunch. It had rung again. No number. No voicemail again. Went out for my walk where I work. Phone rang again. Same number. Better answer it. Is that Matt? Yeah. Who's this? Steve Evans. Okay. Why are you ringing me? Just wanted to say that we do watch the channel. And we think it's really good, and just all the best for the future moving forward. And that was literally 16 hours after being sacked. So there is another side to Steve Evans, I think, is what I'm trying to say. And I know he's got this persona on the touchline, which is good, because if he's your manager, and I get that some people, there was Gills fans that didn't come to our football club for 2 years that he was in charge, that didn't set foot inside the ground. I know COVID, but they weren't coming to football matches all the while Steve Evans is in charge. And everyone's got their own opinion and their own choice, and I get that. But for me, I thought that was, a very nice touch, and something he didn't have to do. He did promise to come on the channel, but he hasn't yet. So if you do speak to him, just give him a jog and say Matt from Gills in the Blood still wants to get him on the channel.
Well, I was just going to mention, as you were telling that story, you're coming on our podcast. He listens to every episode of our podcast. So
I did see that there was a couple of bits I think that were floating around from the Facebook page or something like that. So I do enjoy the Steve Evans Football Manager Twitter parody account as well. I do follow that. It does make me laugh.
Do you follow that one?
I do follow it, yeah. It cracks
And
me up.
literally, we have no idea who's doing that at the club at the moment. Someone's popping it out every week. I even got a DM off them saying, "Oh, look, could you support the page?" And I was like, "Yeah, no worries, we'll
No,
support it."
it
We
does
don't
make
know
me
who it
laugh.
is.
I see it a couple of times. Got retweeted, obviously, by Stevenage fans. I thought I'll have a look, and I started reading through it. I thought, yeah, I'm going to give this a follow. This is a bit of a laugh, to be fair.
Would be funny if it was actually a Gillingham fan running it, and it weren't a Stevenage fan.
We'll see. Maybe you'll get a clue after Saturday, depending on which way the game goes.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you?
But yeah, so we've covered it. There's just a couple of other questions before we get into more immediate things. Obviously, that's Saturday afternoon. I think you've only used 21 players so far, which is a very small group of players, a very small core of players. And I know that's how he ran at Gills as well. And I think he likes to do that wherever he goes. He likes to have, as he calls it, quality over quantity. My only concern from your point of view, talking as someone who's had experience of this, is if you do get an injury crisis, it can quickly bite you on the arse. I'm just looking at our squad from last season. Essentially, we had 23 players, not all of them regulars. And by the time winter came round, we got an injury crisis as long as your arm. I think at one point we had more people unavailable than available. And then I think there was 2 games where we had 4 substitutes, and they were essentially all youth team products. Is there a concern from yourself particular, or even amongst the Stevenage fan base in general, that if you do pick up injuries or suspensions, it then could become more difficult, and this bubble that's been created at the moment could swiftly burst if you do have something of an injury crisis?
Yeah, look, really good point actually made by yourself. I mean, I've said this on various podcasts. I've said it on our podcast. I think the only thing that would be a stumbling block for us is injuries, because as you've rightly put, we don't have a biggest squad. We've actually said 21. We've actually got one of those players out injured who injured himself on the first day of the season,
Right.
Elliot List, which you probably know.
Yeah,
Elliot,
he's come on
you?
leaps and bounds since he joined us and since he left us as well. And Steve, ironically, that released him. And I think I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I think a certain Stevenage striker by the name of Elliot List might have liked a tweet when it was confirmed that Steve Evans wasn't joining Stevenage in December, and then
You're correct.
He might have had to have changed that and unclicked it, because obviously a couple of months later he was his new gaffer.
But do you know what, Elliot? So Elliot had an unbelievable season last year, and again, he's come on leaps and bounds since he joined us. And he got injured last season, was out for 3 to 4 months. And then when Steve took over, he was getting back into the team, and he was brilliant under him. He was brilliant. And actually, you could see Listy enjoying his football again, oddly, under Steve. But yeah, he picked up a really nasty injury on the opening day of the season. He's just had surgery. He should be back in about March. So yeah, we've got this yet, so that makes the squad even smaller to about 19 to 20. So I think, again, for us, that's the only stumbling block for us. I've said it about this Stevenage team. If people stay fit, and if the majority of the squad stay fit, there's no reason why the team can't get promoted this season, but they have to stay fit. And when I say stay fit, I'm talking about the really important players, your Piergiannis, your Sweeneys, your Gilbys, your Luke Norrises, those type of players. So, yeah, look, it is a concern. I do think that Steve will strengthen in January. He has hinted before about bringing in 3 or 4 more players in January. I actually think he wanted to bring in 3 more players actually in August, but probably couldn't get some of those deals over the line. So I think he'll look to strengthen in January. So I think if we can just get to January, which isn't too far away now, with no injuries, I think we'll be absolutely fine, because I think he'll strengthen in January.
No, it's just like I say, it was just something that I noticed, and obviously a little few parallels from last season, and it absolutely killed us, unfortunately, and we never really recovered. Obviously, there was other stuff going on between Steve and the chairman, which I think he has alluded to in the local press loosely. Was quite reserved for Steve, I thought, but I'm sure with 48 hours to go, just under, as we're recording, we might see a few more bits come out on Twitter and social media and that type of thing. You start in 11. I can't see there's going to be too many changes. We've mentioned that you don't use a big group of players. You've not got a big squad, so everybody knows their role. If everyone's fit, they're generally going to start if they're playing well and they've got the shirt. So 3:00 Saturday afternoon, what's the Stevenage team?
Yeah, I don't think the team will be much change from last week. I think the one great thing that we've got at Stevenage at the minute is, again, we don't have a big squad, but every single player can start and win. It's really weird. It's like we don't have reserves this season. It's really strange, which is great, because it means that there's competition for players and all the players feel a part of the group rather than being left out in a lot of the games. But it shouldn't be changed that much from Saturday. He'll go with Ashby Hammond in goal, who's been brilliant. He come up from Boreham Wood and has been absolutely terrific. So he'll play. He'll probably go, probably Luther Wilding at right wing back, who has been one of our longest serving players. Luther joined it back in, where was it now? I think 2017 to 2018, 2018 to 2019 season, one of those. He'll go with the three. He'll go with Sweeney, Terence and Piergiani as the three kind of centre backs. He'll play left wing back. He'll play a guy called Saxon Early, who's come on loan from Norwich again, who's been brilliant. He's come on leaps and bounds. And then we like to play a three in the middle. So he'll have Alex Gilby, Jake Reeves, and probably Jordan Roberts in there as the three. He'll probably start, probably start Jordan Roberts in a free role.
So almost just in front like a 10 rather than, but then we'll drop it. I was going to say, because we had him and he played predominantly as a centre forward or as a winger.
Yeah. Steve's been kind of playing him in this free role when he likes to float kind of everywhere at the minute. So you might see him out on the wing at stages in the game. He's kind of a bit of a floating player. And then, Luke Norris broke his nose a couple of weeks ago and he's back fit, but he'll probably go with Jamie Reid and Danny Rose, who have been brilliant recently. Such hard-working centre forwards. They win their headers, they score goals. They don't stop pressing the whole game. Every time you get the ball at the back, they'll be in the box pressing. So that will probably be the team that he goes with. But again, the thing about our team, we could turn up on one game and he's got a completely different side and no one's complaining because all the players are good enough to play. But if I had to put my money on it, that'd be our team.
Fair enough. No, we know it's going to be a tough test, don't we, Gills fans? I think, any team that comes to visit that's top of the league is clearly doing more right than wrong, regardless of who their manager is. In terms of Gills 11, I can't see there being too many changes from last Saturday. When we went to Crewe and drew 1-1, took the lead, probably should have won the game, but second half was the biggest non-event you're ever likely to see. But we've scored in 4 consecutive games, which after going 700 plus minutes without scoring a goal is fairly prolific by our standards at the moment. Defensively, I think we've got one of the best records in the division. I think there's only 4 or 5 teams that have conceded less, Stevenage being one, obviously. But we've only conceded 12 in 12 games. So I've said this before, and I'm going to say it to you. I suppose from a Gills perspective at the moment, it sort of depends on what side of the coin you decide to sit. And if you're sort of glass half empty, you go, oh, well, we're not scoring more. And if we start conceding, we're going to be banging trouble. But I try to be glass half full. That's just my nature. And I think if we can continue to be strong defensively and not concede too many goals like we have been, then, if there are signs that there is life in them attacking players and we are creating chances and scoring goals now, then obviously we could start rising up the table fairly quickly. I think Saturday is a massive eye-opener and are going to be a big gauge of where we are actually at in terms of improvements that we have made over the last few games. I think it's only 1 defeat in 8 in all competitions. In terms of the team, Glenn Morris will start in goal. I can't see the back 4 changing, so it'll be Shay Alexander, Will Wright, Maxima and Ryan Law from right to left. Sean Williams will captain the team because I think Stuart O'Keefe is still unavailable with an injury. Robbie McKenzie, who's been filling in the middle because of a lack of centre midfielders due to injuries at the moment, will partner him in there. I think he'll go with Hakeem Adelakun and Alex McDonald from the sides. And I think it'll be a front 2 of Mika Mandron and Scott Cashkett. And the reason I think he'll go with that and not Lewis Walker, who has scored in his last 2 starts in the Stuffed Crust Cup. I just think if we play Cashkett and we play McDonald, then if we need to be a bit more solid without the ball, we can go from that 4-4-2 to a 4-3-3 or a 4-5-1 because Cash can either drop in and supplement the midfield, or we can get Cash to go left, Adelakun from the right, and McDonald can tuck in and become a centre midfielder, which he was very good at doing under Steve Evans a couple of seasons ago in that COVID campaign when we had to watch everything on iFollow. So that, I think, will be the Gills 11. Big question before I let you go. Score prediction.
Well, again, I say this on every podcast, Matt. Anyone that knows me knows I'm the most positive Stevenage fan. So, no, look, I think I actually think it will be a tricky game. Actually, I was talking to a few people today who were saying they think a comfortable win, but I thought, no, do you know what? League Two is a funny old league. You don't have to be the best to beat the best. So, I think it will be actually quite a close scoring game. I've thinking about this today, and I think we'll win 1-0, but I think it will be a really, really tough game, and I think we'll nick a goal with about 20 minutes to go. So I'm going 1-0 Stevenage.
Fair enough. I didn't expect anything else. I didn't expect you to come on and say, oh no, I think Gills will beat us. Obviously you're playing well, you're confident, the fans are loving it. Steve Evans is the greatest thing, like sliced bread, and I understand all that entirely. I'm going to be positive from a Gills point of view because I'm similar to you. I like to try and see the positives, and we've scored in our last 4 games in all competitions. We're unbeaten in 5 in all competitions. It's 1 defeat in 8. We're solid defensively. The crowd will be up for it. I think that's going to be a big thing, which I think the Rainer men's going to have to play a massive part, because we know there's going to be this Steve Evans factor, and our gaffer Neil Harris keeps coming out and saying it's just another game, and I think he's trying to drum that into the players. But there's so much white noise that you can't get away from the fact that it's Steve Evans returning, and I think he'll do all he can to drum it up, and to get your fans loud to try and quieten us down. I think the first 20 minutes could be absolutely huge. I think if you score first, it could be a long afternoon. If we can be in the game in the second half, or can score early, I think then we'll make it really tough for you. So for that reason, I'm going to say 1-1.
That's a good result. That's a good prediction. Yeah, 1-1.
I don't think that would be a disaster for either side. I think it keeps you going, ticking over. You get points away and win at home. You're going to be there or thereabouts. We need to start winning games. I understand that from a Gills fan's perspective, because we've not won enough. But if we can take a point off the side that's top of the league, then it could do no end of good for the confidence, which is increasing. I get that already because of this little run that we're putting together. But yeah, for me, 1 each. Right. Gills fans, Stevenage fans, if you are watching, I do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I certainly have. It's been a great pleasure having Matt on. And it's a name I can remember, nice and easy. I'll never get that one wrong. Appreciate you coming on. Are you coming to the game Saturday?
Yeah, I'm coming. I'm driving with a few friends down, so I'll go to every single game, home and away. So I'll certainly be there Saturday. Yeah,
very nice. I don't know what the weather's meant to be like. I'm not sure whether you're in the Brian Moore stand or whether you'll be put in the corner of the Gordon Road.
I was just going to say, I bought my ticket in a week, and you've whacked us in the stand on the side, I think.
That's what they do. If you don't bring loads and the weather looks dodgy, they'll put you under the roof, because we're quite nice.
Okay,
like that.
The Gordon Road one.
That's it. Yeah.
I think we're bringing quite a few, so that'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out in there.
But might have both then. It could be that some are outside in the greatest away stand in the land, and some of you get covered up. But I don't think the weather's meant to be too bad. I think Saturday's meant to be the nicest day out of the next few. So, well, safe journey down. All the best. I hope it goes horribly wrong for you. I do appreciate you coming on. Like I said, Gills fans, Stevenage fans, if you have been watching, thank you. Get commenting down below. Let us know what you think your team would be, whether that's Gills or Stevenage. Let us know what your score predictions would be. And I will put the details for Matt and the podcast in the description. But until next time, up the Gills.